Hi, my friends. Welcome to What Does It Take to Love Yourself? This is an inspired conversation. I did a webinar about 2-3 years ago now, and it was for Valentine's Day. And I'll include that as part of the materials that I'm going to be sending you as far as this recording is concerned, if that is something that you're interested in. And from the perspective of what we're going to do today, we have about 55 minutes, and I will be giving you the lay of the land when it comes to the mechanics of loving yourself, as well as the process of being able to see some hints or tips or clues from your own human design, mechanically speaking. So let's take a look at the transits and see what's going on right now. New, just now. Okay. Happy fifth line day. It is going to be the left angle cross of individualism. I did not plan that, but that is a really big piece of the puzzle of being able to love oneself. From the perspective of loving oneself, it is the unconditional love, which is just the presence of being. Everyone is here to be unconditional love, but how do you be unconditional love? For me, the design particulars are showing the individuality or my nature has an ability to let go of the mind's process. So all of you who are sixes, 6-line profiles, consciously particularly, you may be able to resonate with or identify with what I'm sharing with you. Have you ever noticed that you can kind of detach or be unattached to certain things, like the perspective that somebody may be giving you? You get a little bit more of an optimistic viewpoint. I know for me, you can see the 6 lines here, as well as the 6 color means that I can look within myself to see the world outside. So that's oftentimes how I tend to teach, is being able to share my personal perspective on everything. And because it resonates or rings true for me, this is being able to detach from the past experience or disassociate. During my human design experiment, I was able to change unhealthy disassociation into a way of experiencing life where there was more of an ability to detach from the mental story. So that's the first thing that I want to give you. Apologies if you see me glancing off to the side. I'm just letting more people in. The first step in order to love yourself is first, be yourself. And you can only be yourself if you detach from the mental stories or the mind games and the tricks that the mind plays on you. From the perspective of our human design system, we know that all of the openness in the design is home to conditioned adaptive strategies that the mind uses to try and make something very, very specific. As far as, let's say, with the heart center, something inside of the self feels like there's something wrong or bad or flawed, something inherently disrespectful or not able to have the self-esteem or self-worth, self-appreciation, validation, approval. When you have an undefined heart center, there's something inside that makes you feel like you've got to prove yourself because of the mental story, because of the conditioned adaptive strategies. So it's kind of like this catch-22. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, you know? Do you love yourself first? Well, think about yourself as a baby. Do you remember being a baby? Most people don't. But if you have ever been around a newborn baby and they're exploring themselves and their world, and you just see this bright, shiny, just wonderment or awe. I love babies personally. I definitely tend to love babies. And I can remember my little child and being able to re-experience the world through her eyes because she was, experiencing everything for the first time. I felt like I never really knew what true love was until I had that child. If you're a mother, you know what I mean. And so from the perspective of remembering yourself as a child, can you go back to at least imagining? Laveena likes to use that as a tool to help you shift your state. Can you imagine when you were a little baby child before something happened to you that made you feel like you were flawed or fundamentally unlovable? Well, I have to tell you, all of us are born with a wound. You all know about the Chiron wound? Anybody need to know about what Chiron is, or the wound that happens? When you were born, you were, we could say, inflicted with this wound. Everyone has it from the perspective of the Chiron wound. So if you don't know what that is, please do let me know so that I can explain a little bit more. Besides having openness, which I just briefly touched upon, one of the biggest bugaboos there is in the human design system as far as the body graph is concerned, your mind thinking that you're not good enough or unworthy, and then your mind making up stories or reasons why you should do this or that because you need to be able to prove your value and your worth, either to yourself or to another person. So let me check the chat. Okay, nobody knows about the wound yet here. So I am going to include, besides my 3 years ago, the Valentine's lecture, I'm also going to include what Chiron is. Okay, so from the perspective of the planetary asteroid, all of us have an imprint. It's actually here in the software. It's just not big enough to create a gate activation. So one of the things that we're all here to heal inside of ourselves is that wound. Every single one of us can heal that wound. And it doesn't actually happen that we get the opportunity to have the experience of healing that wound until we're between 49 or 51. Depends on where you were born. That planetary asteroid has an unusual orbit. It's not perfectly circular, so it's not exactly the same age for everybody. For me, it's 49. And I am about to turn 47. So I'm just a couple years away, but it's 3.5 years within the orb of turning to the Chiron cycle. Everybody has large life cycles. Chiron is the big one. Chiron is the one that you actually get the potential, as Ra would put it, plant your cross, your incarnation cross, in order to fully flower your gifts out into the world. So when you look at this natal body graph, you're just looking at a graph that is a frozen moment in time. That's basically what human design is teaching us. We're learning about the cycles of time through planetary life aspects. So this natal imprint that you're looking at right here, it's just digits on a screen. It's not you. This is just the thing that remains true about you throughout this entire life. And these gifts get unpacked over the life. So my husband and I were talking last night. I asked him, what does it take to love yourself? And through our conversation, him personally, through our conversation, he's a cross of confrontation, 5'1", very heretical, split like me. We bridge each other's split. We've been together for over 10 years, all through the human design experiment together. And what I recognized from conversing with my husband is that every single one of us has a unique way of loving ourselves. But basically, like I mentioned, to recap, since we just had a couple people join, the first step is to let go of the mind's conditioned adaptive strategies. And that's where I was saying chicken or egg, which comes first. To be yourself, if you can be yourself, that is the key to loving yourself. And as we know, this human design system gives us a really easy framework of understanding type, strategy, and authority. But those simple keys on the surface, it's not enough for certain people. I happen to be one of those. So if you, like me, have a right brain-body system right here, for the first 7 years of your life, most likely you were horrendously conditioned. And so we have to go back to start here to remediate some of the conditioning in order to treat your body the way it was designed to be treated. I'm a wide split and an emotional projector. So at the top of the hierarchy of fucked up people on this planet, this is the design, okay? As far as that, as well as the right brain-body system. I'm not saying that to say poor me. I'm saying that because straight up raw teaching. The other thing that is very uncomfortable about this particular design being projector, designed to focus, penetrate, absorb, be conditioned by one other person at a time. Designed to be conditioned means you have no idea where you end and the other person begins unless you really dedicate yourself to this experiment. Learning not only yourself, but learning human design through the other. And direct quote from Ra for projector, type, strategy, authority. It's for the big things in life. It's not for the little things, and it's not enough. So you need to be able to make decisions not only from your type, strategy, and authority, but also from your motivational frequency. So what I've just done there for you is unpacked a couple more tools that you can use besides type, strategy, and authority. So if you're new to this, I see a lot of familiar faces here, but if you're new to this, and you haven't gone through LYD yet, then that's the first place to go. But if you have gone through LYD, then the next place to go is to go to some remedial education about yourself to understand that you yourself are very different from every single other person on the planet, period. I don't care if they were born right next to you and you have a very similar body graph. It's not the same. It may be similar, but it's not the same. And not only that, no person can occupy the same point in space for the rest of their life. Even if you were twins, you went off and one mom held you and other mom held you, or whatever, genders were your parents. So from the perspective of being able to attune to what you are relative to being this being in this life, the first step is to get rid of the conditioned adaptive strategies of the mind running the show. That's just conditioning. Conditioning is not bad. Conditioning is not wrong. Conditioning is where we live life, the life experience. When you let go of what your mind thinks about yourself as something to negate yourself, blame yourself, shame yourself, guilt yourself, fault yourself, or hate on or shame or guilt anybody else, now you've made it. You've really made it because you let go of that uncomfortable feeling inside. Have you ever, if you really pay attention, one of the things I'm here to recognize feelings, right? I'm here to project feelings. And anytime I can feel there's discomfort inside of me, I can hear that it comes out in my voice. Even if I'm doing my best to hold the lid on it, the other person, particularly those sensitive beings who have an undefined emotional system, they can feel it. So if I feel it, I know they can feel it. Other people who know me well might be able to hear, oh, something got under Laveena's skin. Okay, so the thing that gets me most uncomfortable, the way that I see the world, this is the internal mental structure over here, okay, the way the foundation of the mind works. When I perceive power games and powerlessness out in the world, I feel really uncomfortable. And back in the day, my mind would go into how can I fix it? How can I change it? How can I help? How can I support? How can I do something? And if I couldn't do something, example, politics. My husband got into politics in the last few years recently, which is my complete and utter distraction as a personal perspective person. So this was the first time that this happened where people were showing me things that were really uncomfortable. And I went, oh, I'm not uncomfortable. I wonder why that is. And it's not only because I had lots of time into the experiment to be able to let go of the mind saying, we've got to do something, those poor children. Okay, yesterday that happened actually. Yesterday, I remember coming across information about a certain president who was shown with a picture on his lap of his babysitter who became his wife. So anyway, long story short is that kind of made me uncomfortable because it led into a story about, children being abused. And that really hurts my heart because as a personal experience, I have been sexually abused as a child and it's in my family. So how can you love yourself when you've gone through some kind of trauma where as a child you think that you did something wrong? That you were bad, that you are flawed, that you are not good enough, that you are not lovable. The life experience that each one of us has is giving us clues, always, always. Your clues are different from my clues. My clues are very specific to my design. But the clue that you can already attune to right here, right now, without a shadow of a doubt, is experiencing spirit, which is success, satisfaction, peace, or surprise. That is the expression of your spirit in this life. Or the not self theme, which is still coming from the same areas of your design. So the dissatisfaction, the frustration that comes from somebody like Alan Leo's design when operating in not self, in shadow state, it is the channels that are creating that energetic experience. And frustration doesn't feel good. Satisfaction with a job well done, you can feel inside of your body. The word itself carries the frequency, which is why we're using words in the system. Using words in order to tap on these certain places within the genetic code to get you to self-recognize and be aware. That's all we're trying to do, is get you to a place of being self-aware or self-realized. When Ra initially registered the trademark of Human Design System, it was a system for self-realization, self-actualization, and really what unconditional love is all about. Of self, particularly, besides being oneself in order to love yourself. So just be yourself and the love will follow, because that is your nature of being. You are love. You do not have to have love from someone else. You be love. Love is a direction. Love is an expression. Love is. Love is what created this body. Your mind is a spirit that is riding, your soul that is riding around, visibly watching the experience, and your body is the life. But the auric frequency that you have, that imprint between personality consciousness and design unconscious, that auric frequency is what builds the body, and it's not the other way around. So back to spirit. When we come to an awareness of spirit or an experience of spirit, my spirit happens to be success. It just gets sweeter and sweeter, and it affects everything around me because I'm a contagion. So, I share it amongst my tribe and I bring people along. Hey, let's go have success over here. This is fun. Let's do it. So there's all this fun stuff happening in my life, but it wasn't always like that. And back in the day, the only thing that's changed is my perception of totality, of life experience, of self, of other. My awareness has changed. Now, I couldn't do that in the beginning. I thought I was doing it, but I wasn't. My mind was trying to control still and trying to figure out how to make certain things happen and speak the language when I actually didn't quite get it yet. Not really, not truly, not intrinsically and within the cellular structure or matrix. Each one of you, we're all walking water bags. Did you know that? I'm a cold thirst. And one of the things that I got called to do, this usually happens around your 30s, where you get called out from the nest into the great big world. And I got called up to the mountains, which is where my design happens to love to be. The mountains, we're calling. My now husband invited me up to the mountains to live in a very remote place. And one of our favorite things to do would be gather spring water and drink it. And I learned this from him. He's got a health channel, the 5720. I do like stacking the deck in my favor. Besides the fact that most of us are made of water, and water carries the memory, it's an intrinsic part of our cellular matrix. Drinking pure, clean spring water was one of my clues of being able to clean out the cellular structure. Lots of crying, lots of cathartic crying, healing, not the kind of cry that goes, I'm not good enough, nobody loves me, but, oh, that's not true, and what a relief. So crying is one of the next steps. How do you love yourself? Cry. No, there's a step between that. From the perspective of being able to level up your brain, it's actually, I've got to find the guy's name. I listened to a lot of podcasts randomly, and there was this brain scientist. He has an institution in LA that was saying that when you cry, it actually allows the memories to reorganize in the brain to kind of level up, to restructure your experience of yourself. You can see that that's one of the very unusual aspects of my design. Unusual fear of the past catching up with me, and also genetic cellular memory. So I like these they may seem very simple. Those of you who are holistic crunchy mamas like I used to be, I knew to drink spring water, but I'd never had the opportunity to go and collect it and say thank you to Mama Earth for giving us this gift of pure, drinkable spring water and then imbibing it on a regular basis. So that happened for a very long time, where I lived up in the mountains with my now husband off and on, and we deconditioned together. That's another tip I'll tell you, especially if you're a projector. I know I have a lot of projectors in the room. You notice these things if you are a projector, that you change depending upon who you're around, right? Your behavior might change. You can see I've got an open 10. So we amplify. And if we identify with their behavior as us, now we have a problem. There is a real critical aspect to understand about anybody, especially though projectors and generators. We have no protective field around ourselves, nothing. The only thing that protects a generator is the response, period. The only thing that protects the projector is the motivational frequency, because that's an instantaneous knowing or recognition that you can have of you being off track or you being on track. Just like bitterness. Bitterness is a good signpost. All of our signposts are good. They show you, hey, you're going the wrong way. Just like, those bumps on the side of the road, I use it often when you're driving. Hey, bumps on the side of the road, if you're going off-road, either one side or the other to the other lane, and that's very dangerous either way. So to have these signposts of awareness, to be like these little course corrections. Oh, with this person, I feel bitter. With this person, I feel successful. So being very careful around whom you will expose yourself to, not just the water that you drink, which has an energy, the people that you expose yourself to, the information feeds that you're taking in, because all of it is conditioning. And when you believe the mind story inside the head about the self, I call it the thought you think that makes you shrink inside, because it really is true. For me, I don't know about you, but it just, nobody loves me. That was my mantra as a child. Even though I had this bright, shiny, happy exterior, the internal Laveena was very traumatized, and hit it with a smile, because that's when people love you, only when you're smiling, not when you're crying. I learned from my non-emotional mother. So the conditioned adaptive strategies, thinking that you're not good enough, nobody loves you, and that you have to prove yourself or validate yourself, it comes in a way that's unhealthy because your mind is unhealthy. So you cannot fix what's broken or wrong with the mind. Everybody's actually walking around with a mental disorder for the most part if they believe their mind inside of their head about themselves from the conditioned adaptive strategies. Ra would call it the madness of the normal mind. So if you believe your mind inside your head about yourself, and you are subject to obeying those laws or rules, it's just conditioning. Whether that conditioning is that person in front of you, or I'll tell you the more difficult conditioning to deal with is that transit outside of you, because you can't see the transit. You don't know it's there. You don't know what's going on. And some transits are good conditioning, absolutely necessary in order for you to fulfill your life's work. The good conditioning, Naraya, I'm going to make you co-host, because people still keep coming in if you don't mind letting them in. The good conditioning of the Chiron, I'm going to send you a Valentine's Day recording, the Chiron return as well, to explain what that is. Thank you, honey. From the perspective of being able to attune to what is you. It's much easier to do when you see what is not you. So this is one of the most common complaints that I hear from my deconditioning people, is that when they start to follow strategy and authority, life gets really quiet. They're not as exposed to as many people. And some people might even feel lonely. Have you noticed that? Is that something that you feel? Lonely? We're all alone. We all wake up alone. We all die alone, unless we happen to be in a tragic plane crash, but it's still our own personal experience, you know? We're born, we experience life, and we die. It is what it is. So from the perspective of being able to attune to what is you and what is not you, anything that is you is life-giving. It's sustaining your life. It's supporting you. It's empowering you. It's sharing you with the collective, like you see me share my experiences and my emotions and my stories, embarrassing though the mind thinks that they are. Because without that, what are we here for? The primary operative of a human being is to pass on the knowledge to the next generation. There's nothing more beautiful that you can do. Well, my mind says, because part of my reincarnative purpose is to be able to share. Straight from Ra. Any of you got a 33 line 6? You're here to be able to really get human design out into the world. Share it, you know, and don't negate yourself if you don't have that. You all resonate with this material. Otherwise, you would not be here. And people come and go in the experiment. Some people find it too hard or too restrictive. Some people go away and come back 20 years later, and I see them and I go, wow, that's amazing that you had a reading with Ra and now you're ready to get certified. That's incredible. You know, it's never too late. In other words, what tends to happen is the mind thinks, oh, I'm late, or I have to hurry, I have to force, I have to push, I have to rush, I have to make it happen. And you don't, actually. You can do without doing, and the doing gets done. That was a common thing that Ra really enjoyed. And the reason we're using that at this moment is because the mind thinks that it has to meddle. And the moment you get your mind out of the meddling, you can still let it bitch and moan, you know, in, what is it called? Nonviolent communication. Studied that for a few years, was the psychologist. You let your jackal go for a run. So if we call the mind a jackal, and the not self, the bitch inside your head about yourself or about others, if you let it go for a run, it might make you feel better temporarily, but it's still a bad habit. It's still something that takes you away from being yourself, as in being true to you, authentic to you, real to you. And some people are way more, you could say spiritually minded or high-minded or, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's not about putting blinders over the eyes and ignoring things or putting your head in the sand. It is about attuning to treating yourself the way that you're designed to be treated. Because if you don't treat yourself the way that you're designed to be treated, no one else is going to treat you the way that you are supposed to be treated either. Because you've got to teach them, hey, now, Laveena doesn't answer her phone calls, actually, period. In fact, Laveena sometimes doesn't answer her email. That's why I usually hire other people to do it for me. Laveena needs time and space to retreat. That's sacred. You know, if I don't answer, it's not because there's something I'm mad at you about. It's because I'm getting right with me first. Clear with me first, true to me first, because I'm the only one that can do that. And that is the same thing for you. This is the school of enlightened selfishness, which means put your oxygen mask on first rather than trying to take care of everybody else. It's something that you've got to learn. Yeah, it's not about sacrificing yourself in this system. So back to being, you know, oh, there's not a lot of people around. There's not a lot of things going on. Laveena, I'm bored. When's this stuff going to happen? You know? Okay. So the reason why we ask you to sleep alone and to allow yourself to be comfortable in your own aura is because it's as clean as you can get. Meaning you don't have a person in your auric field or bubble, giving you conditioning, active conditioning in the moment. And then you start to feel what's you and what's not you. And then the moment somebody comes into your field, you can feel them. I mean, I'm feeling cognition, so I can feel them. Maybe some of you might be able to smell them first. I don't know. Everybody's got a unique cognitive potential. You can hear them first. You can taste them first. That's interesting. So anyway, from the perspective of allowing yourself to be comfortable in your own skin, it's for a good purpose, a reason, giving you the familiarity of what it feels like to be yourself. When you let go of the mind running the show, okay, when you allow what's going through you, what's moving through you, to not be something that you have to do something with, but that you channel your energy through that awareness of self, and what's true for self. And you come from the place of authenticity within the design. This is what leads you to be able to decondition, okay? So just saying a different way of saying follow your body, attune to and trust your body. And most people go, well, I can't tell if it's my body or if it's my mind. Oh, hello. If it's talking inside your head and it's giving you disempowering messages, it's giving you unsupportive messages about you or about the other. This is about others too, because ultimately they are all just a reflection of you. We're just at different points in time and space experiencing different aspects of truth and life. So from the perspective of each one of us being individuals, heck yeah. And until, we got 2-3 more years until 2027, the inner truth door is still open. So all of us who are born before 2027 have this potentiality of individuating, and individuating is a path of self-sufficiency, self-sustainment. So you don't anymore need someone in your life. Hi, suffered tons of codependent relationships back in the day. But I don't need my husband in my life. I want him in my life. Very different, especially as a basic split projector. We get really graspy and needy when we're in a not self. So from the perspective of being able to tune, you are a tuning fork, all of you. You can tune to each other, the sound frequencies, the word formulas, the phrases that you use, the things that you intake. All of that is going to tune to you or not. Is it going to mess up your tuning? I know for me, I don't imbibe anything that feels uncomfortable anymore. That includes people, because people are food, basically. People are information. In fact, anything that you take in, information, is food for the brain-body system. So if it heats me up or if it's uncomfortable, no, I don't go there. Not my monkeys, relative to, it's not my responsibility to be able to be super available for anybody just because they have a sub story or whatever. They did something for me and hey, I deserve this because you owe me, kind of a thing. No. So this is about getting right with you, putting the mirror up close to your view and reflecting upon yourself. How do you treat yourself? With kindness, with grace, with compassion. If you talk to yourself like a bitch and you constantly shame and complain and guilt and fault yourself, what I used to do, of course you're going to feel uncomfortable and shrinking and embarrassed and ashamed and guilty inside. It's not you, though. It's just conditioning. Most people hate the wrong person. They're shaming and blaming and bitterly faulting the wrong person. It's not even them. It's just patterns of conditioning that is not truth. So the moment you let go of the conditioned adaptive strategies as being who you identify with as I, now you've made a shift. So going back to out of the perceptual, mindy stuff, let's go back to the body graph because it really does give us so many cool tools. Mind is represented in any place that has an openness, okay? Open says I. ego I. Just open. I. And when it's a wide I instead of a small I, look at that little small I. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know I could do that. Okay. Small I is right here. Okay. You can see it. Looks like a small I. It's going to look like an upside down I right there. But when it's a big I, because it's a channel, that tends to show up like blaming the other. So in reality, even though I'm a wide split, my mind tends to go to blaming the other. Absolutely. Back in the day, it took me 3 years to see how I was doing that. From the perspective of how your mind operates, it's just a mechanism. It's just mechanics. And when you identify with the I inside of your head about yourself, that is literally coming from the adaptive condition strategies of over-identifying with the openness, this is what leads you off track. Oh, I have to say in order to prove, or whatever the case may be. So if you're into how the world works, how people's minds work, if you like diving deep into things, this is one of the deeper things that I wish somebody had told me right off the bat, because I feel like, oh, there it is, a little tiny bit of blame. Did you hear that? Somebody should have told me this earlier. I'm telling it to you now because I found it so helpful. Okay, even though it's an advanced area of the knowledge. That right there at least gives you awareness. So now we've made some steps, okay? We've gotten to the awareness of, oh my God, my mind is just a conditioned adaptive strategy game. It's just a program. Okay, if I'm not my mind, then what am I? Where am I? Who am I? You know, what's going on here? What tends to happen is you start to crack. There's a facade that you put up to the world, that you pretend to be, that you identify with, and it starts to crack. And then you start to feel like you're going crazy. At least I know I did. Wait, I'm being not self. That's not self. So then who is my true self and what is going on? I also had a Pluto transit over my natal moon, which is your mental focus. So it was a pretty earth-shattering past few years. And at the end of it, I came out a different person. The voice changed. The personality somewhat changed. Still am the goofy me, but with a lot less heaviness on the heart. It's much easier, a lighter load, you could say. That's all enlightenment is. It's being able to accept and love yourself unconditionally as you are. So if your mind is fantasizing, let's imagine something really horrible. I'm not going to say it out loud, but for each of you, if you can think back or imagine even worse, the most horrible thought you've ever had. I can remember imagining wanting to kill someone. Ooh, look, killer monkeys, human beings, wanting to kill someone. I actually used to have nightmares about killing people. The death gate in the dream rave, the decay of the body. Used to have these catastrophic dreams of the entire world just dying, dead bodies. I mean, it was horrible. Don't have those anymore, thank God. I haven't killed anybody in my sleep in a really long time. I think it was 2015 was the last one I had. So 3 years. Okay. So that's a pretty fucking horrible thing to imagine doing, you know? The vindictiveness or the not self tries. You can always see the hallmark of a not self by trying to get something from somebody. And so what would I have gotten if I'd have killed that? Oh, I would have freedom and then I wouldn't have to divorce that man. That's pretty awful, isn't it? The mind can cook up all kinds of horrible situations. Yeah, this is a fantastical, strong imagination design anyway. And you can see Mars. Mars is very strong like bull, my mind said. Mars is violent, okay? And we'll put it nicely, and we'll just say violent. But it's also the thing that can break you free from the mundane reality. It is mutation. Mars is an incredible gift. It's not just a bad guy or girl, however you want to put it. So if we imagine that really horrible experience that you just had, and we go, wow, I could actually kill somebody. And then you think of yourself as a killer. That right there is an illusion. It's Maya. It's not you. And this is the mechanics of the Maya mechanics, how the program works. So I went into that very extreme example, killer monkey, you know, the killer T cells 26, yeah, killers there. The tribe is very violent. If we can allow ourselves to sit with whatever is happening and allow it to be, but not identify with it as something that is or belongs to us, we've made a shift. Okay? And in the beginning, you cannot make that shift unless you're following your strategy and authority. You're eating correctly, you're sleeping alone, you're in the right place, you're seeing things clearly. Out pops your motivational frequency. The motivational and the personality construct, your awareness principle, the way that your mind expresses itself or its beingness. This is I, the true I, the real you. And this is we. This is where we fulfill our life's work. So if we can come from this place of finding out who we are for ourselves, generator, who we are for others, projector, what our impact is, manifester, and what is the reflector? Do we have any reflectors in the room? The reflector is the surprise in life, but I'm curious how it really shows up for you. If we can be that shining bright light of awareness, because this is about being aware. Most people are living in darkness, not aware. Most people are living in ignorance and fear. That is the current age. If we can come from this place more often than not, we've made a shift. And that usually happens 3.5 years into your stringent deconditioning process. I mean, real dedication, you know. One of the tips I'll give you that happened to be very helpful. Becky Markley was one of my, I'll call her a private tutor because I got a lot of readings, all the readings you could from this woman back in the day. And she told me, even though she's a defined throat projector like I am, she stopped initiating conversation, period. And I did that with my husband, and he can talk. He's got a lot of communication. And what I noticed, the immediate thing that I noticed, if I just reflected upon what my mind was thinking in relationship to what he was saying, and then not speaking the immediate thing that came out of my mouth normally, is I noticed that my thought, what I wanted to say, was something that would get whatever he was contemplating or whatever he was doing or whatever he was thinking, whatever he was being, focused on my advantage. What is that man that's talking to me right now? You know, oh, he should do this because then I, or you should do this because you're so good at it and then I. Like I was always trying to manipulate the mind. Manu means the root word of manipulate, hand, massage. He's got a 26 and I've got the 44. This is a love gate, the 44 is. This is the love of success. And we happen to have one of our 7 electromagnetics there. It's one of the only harmonic and resonant. It's the only harmonic and resonant channel, meaning the line values are harmonic and resonant. So that's where my mind immediately recognized the not self, trying to get something from the other. And I don't know if you have any experience in this, but it's a common occurrence that people who have a lot less money expect people who have a lot more money, hey, you got some, give it to me. I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen it. Okay, I used to be one of those. Hey, you could totally pay for this. You didn't, but you drop in your bucket, you know, like that kind of, entitlement. See, entitlement right there. The 45s are very entitled, if you don't know. This whole channel is actually not tribal. It's OC16, so they are the queen, or whatever the case may be. So they expect, you know, I shall give you my royal... Have you watched The Magicians? Freaking love that show. So funny. One of the gods, I give you my royal seed. His seed happened to give this girl magic powers. Anyway, just like, yes, you're welcome, you know. Anyway, long story short, what happens is when you can let go of your mind running the show And you can observe, witness, watch that mind like a third person. Remember how Ra has that analogy of riding in the limousine? My husband reframed it to be like a bus in a third world country where, you got goats and chickens and they're going around the mountains and everybody's just like, You have no control in this vehicle as a personality construct. None. You think you do, but the mind is a step behind, and the mind has spokespersons, and all the openness is a spokesperson right here, whether you have a defined ajna or not. So mental awareness is reactive. It's not creative. It's reactive. So you watch that crap movie long enough, you get to know its game. The secret key to the game is, how do I know if it's my body or my mind? Hint, your mind repeats, or mine especially does, but usually the mind will loop over and over and over and over again. If your authority is splenic, that's now. And then it doesn't repeat. Not unless there's a hurricane coming or whatever, tornado, and you really need to get into that cellar. So from the perspective of being able to attune, we have tons and tons of little clues in the body graph. It takes a long time to get to the place where you can read this, but it takes 60 minutes to get started with a awesome analyst who can read that map for you and tell you exactly what to look out for in order to attune to you and be you. And that begins the step of loving yourself unconditionally, no matter what's happening. Whatever's happening, mind thinking that it has any modicum of control, it doesn't. Can you control what's going to happen in your country relative to, wars or financial crises? No. Can we control what's going on in the transits? Please, Jupiter, move to the next gate. No, we can't do that. Can you ask Mercury to stop going backwards for a while so you could just move forward on some of those projects? You can't. So what to do? You watch. And it's fun. It's super fun. If you're a geek like me and you like to know how the world works, remember studying, back in the day, esoteric bookshops were my jam. And going all kinds of places, studying all kinds of things, trying to figure it all out, right? The mind I need to be certain what the hell is going on here. You can't. The only thing that I know intrinsically is that each one of us has a unique way of seeing. Okay? So the purpose of a projector especially is seeing. Sometimes just in the seeing, sitting there, projecting your energy, seeing, the other person gets it without you even having to say anything. Have you ever seen that happen? You don't have to say anything. You're just seeing. You're just being. A being next to a being equals a third thing. You can't control how that third thing shows up. It is what it is. So just like if I want to go have a relaxing vacation, I'm not going to book my flight to a garbage dump. Don't go to a place where your body feels like it's going to putrefy or get diseased or ill health. This is about longevity. Why I live in the mountains, why I love the mountains. I'm a mountains person. What are you? Because just like if you were growing up in an inner city, you would be a very different human being than if you grew up out in the country in the mountains of Hawaii. Very, very different person. We're all products of our environment and our experiences. You cannot control some of those experiences. People die, shit happens. What to do? Watch the movie. And when you watch the movie and you accept, look, the life process is accepting what is. That's what I'm teaching you. That's my way. But you have your own unique way. And here's my last tip for you before I let you go. Let's go to my body graph, and under the owl, Ravi Ching, I'm at gate 10. And gate 10 is behavior, treading, the gate of the behavior of the self. The underlying code of behavior, which ensures successful interaction despite circumstances. So Your personality construct, whatever your profile is, I'm a 3. This is me. Okay, whether you have that gate or not, this is my way to love, not only self-love, besides all the stuff I just gave you. This is how I'm going to express it to you. Martyr, the futile rejection of standards based on a just awareness, right there. Bold blue line, when you're reading the Ravi Ching, this is something that develops over your life. So you'll have an exaltation and a detriment. It's going to be exalted or detrimented if you have a planet there, okay? But if you don't have a planet there, like that planet, Earth or Moon there, exalted or detriment, if you've got both of them in that channel, you're going to have both, meaning the extreme ends of the spectrum. But I'm not talking about what you actually have in that particular gate today. What I want you to do is take your personality line construct and go read that, whatever your personality line is. And then go look at your design line. So I'm a 5, I would go up and read the 5. That's my behavior. That's my set of experiential process in order to get to the acceptance and appreciation and love of self. Other people's way is not my way. Understanding that the archetypal role that you're here to play, these great big shoes that you're here to wear, this costume that you grow into at 50 and beyond. This is something that unpacks over the life. Like all 6-line beings have a tripartite life process and become the role model at 50 and beyond. All of us, because we are in that age and stage of life where we're shifting over to the 6-line background frequency, all of us have a tripart life process as well. Meaning we grow into this. And this right here, this is just a snapshot of your birth moment and 88 degrees of the sun's movement before your birth. The form dominates. It is the most important thing because without the form, we're floating, we're a ghost, you know, we're not here in the same way. So this is not the fullest experience and expression of what this human being came to be. This is why I'm giving you the Chiron return video as homework. This is the fullest expression of this particular incarnation, this one. This is the conditioning and the circumstances and the events and the people that are meant to have a profound impact upon this vehicle and this experience of this one giving the contagion out into the world. So when you say, I don't have that, you do. You do. You have everything. Everyone has everything. You either have a fixed natal imprinting or you have it open, fluid, flexible, wherever there is an openness, and that's our receptivity. Our receptivity to others, to people, to life, and this good conditioning, absolutely necessary to fulfill one's life's work. Doesn't change your type, doesn't change your aura, doesn't change your strategy, doesn't change your authority. But at some point, when you align, type, strategy, and authority are crutches to get children to a level of self-sufficiency or sustainment. At some point, you are your own authority, and you, as far as being you, not the mind you, but the being of you, the fullest expression of being you, will express itself uniquely. Here's your hint. What one of Ra's most common compliments, noticings, occurrences, not that you necessarily are going to love somebody when they decondition, because he said, some of his students he really didn't like anymore once they deconditioned. But the thing that was most common was that the voice changed because the voice carries frequency. So the moment that you know you can love yourself, when you hear yourself, hi, this is Laveena, please leave a message, and you don't cringe at that voice, you've made the shift. Those are my hints and tips and tricks from the past decade plus of experimenting with human design. Oh my God. 14 years it will be later in September. 14 years, 12 years, 12 years, 12 years, thank you. 12 years. Bad at math. Good at talking. Thanks for listening. I will send you the recording and the bonuses, Valentine's and Chiron. If I forget, just remind me. Take care, my friends. See you whenever it is that we have classes. We have a LYD guide training starting this weekend if you'd like to join, and just regular LYD as well if you'd like to join. Bye for now. You're welcome. Bye.